Well, I think what the citizens need to know is that they need new leadership across the board. Leadership that's unafraid, leadership that has vision, leadership that has courage, and leadership that is committed to the people first and foremost. We're not here because we're so great. We're not here because we voted for ourselves. We're here because we went out and people listened to what we had to say, and they felt that they were electing the best qualified people to represent their agenda, not our agenda, but their agenda. This is a representative form of government. This is a republic. The U.S. is a republic. And so there's a Republican form of government. I don't mean the party, I mean the political structure. So in a Republican form of government, you elect people to represent you at the table, to represent your interests. In a democracy, you represent yourself. You may have chaos, but in a democracy, there's direct rule and direct vote of the people. In a Republican form of government, there's indirect representation of the interests of the people. So we always have to ask ourselves, what's in the best interests of the people, number one, and how do the people best want us to represent their interests? And sometimes we get it confused, we get conflicted. And so we begin to govern on the basis of what we think is best for the people because they don't know what's best for themselves. Now, sometimes that may be the case. Sometimes because the people don't have all of the information that we have. And therefore, it is incumbent upon us to present all of the information to them to try to explain to them why this is a good deal one way or the other based upon the information that we're privy to that they don't have. And so I think what you have here, you only have two council members that have served on other legislative bodies. Member Cockrell, who is the longest serving council member, myself, who have served on other political bodies from the Board of Education to the County Commission to here. I'm not, I haven't served longer here. Member Watson was here before I got here. So you got three council members that have been here for at least 8 years. Some been here longer than 8 years, but at least three. And I think Member Jones came in, and so we both been here for the 8 years, or four of us. So you have the old and the new, and you have to. Then you have others who also come out of other struggles, other movements. We didn't just drop into the political arena. We were on that other side of the table, agitating and fighting for change and political change. We ran community centers based upon independent, revolutionary, black nationalist agendas in some cases. Member Watson was with the NAACP and others. And then of course we know Member Cockrell's father's history, although that is not his history, but his father's history. So I think, and then of course Mayor Bean, as far as I know, have no grassroots political connection, movement, and organization. He comes out of the corporate world, off of the basketball court, into the political arena, like a naked baby, fresh out of bathwater, and cannot dress himself. And so we have that kind of leadership. You don't have the forceful leadership to say hell no. If we mess it up, then we'll clean it up, and if we can't clean it up, then we'll see what happens after that. But all of this hostage taking, I came to me this morning that Snyder name is not Snyder but Sniper, because he has been sniping the city of Detroit. He comes off with this, I'm just a nerd, and can't we all just get along? Isn't this just a win-win situation for everybody? There's no way that he woke up last week and decided that, oh, we're gonna do right to work. No, it was in his on his agenda. It just wasn't on the table. And after proposal two, then it's retribution. That's what politics is. People get punished. You either get your agenda through or you get punished for even proposing it, for putting it out there. The problem with black folks is that we don't understand power politics. We just in it, sometimes for the right reason, sometimes for ulterior motives, but we don't understand power politics, and we don't understand what power is really all about. We just want some jobs, and we're just happy to be integrated or desegregated, because we're really not integrated, because to be integrated you need to have some of the power that other folks have. You can live in certain places, but you really don't have the power. And so the question of power, the ability to define, defend, and develop one's own interests to create reality and have others to accept that reality as their own. So you don't have a consent agreement, you have a surrender agreement. In the War of 1812, Detroit surrendered. It was the first city in the Union, in the nation, that surrendered to a foreign power. Detroit did in 1812. And so it's interesting that in 2012, we surrender once again. We find ourselves surrendering again. And so that is an issue, that is a concern, that you have surrendered the politics, you have surrendered the resources, and yes, there have been many mistakes over the years, not just with this administration, other administrations. There has been depopulation going on, and a wait and see when they're going to die kind of approach to the city of Detroit, because Detroiters don't own this land. There are other landlords who left the city but held on to the land. In some cases, they rented it out. They became slum landlords. In some cases, when it got burned out or they burned it out, then they just paid the taxes on the land, because land is the basis of all power. Land is the only thing that God is not making any more of. And so you don't give up land. I don't care how bare the land is. I don't care how abandoned the land is. You hold your land. And of course you make decisions with it. But to do what we did in council, to give up over 1,500 parcels of land to one individual, not a community group, but a corporate entity who intends to either have corporate farming, so you're growing not for consumption, but for profit, as opposed to what community organizations would do with the land. You have testimony after testimony where people have said, well, I want a piece of this land here and I want a piece of that land there. And they have to jump through hoops, and they give them elevated prices on the land. You've had situations where community groups wanted a strip of land so that they could maintain it. They already maintain it. It's inside of their boundaries. And this administration say, okay, give us $20,000, not 300, 20,000. And if it was not for the intervention of council, then they wouldn't have gotten that land. So eventually they said, okay, you got us. Give us $2,500, not 300, not for a partial. It's just a strip, can't be used for nothing else but cutting. And we charge. So there is a dual reality in this city, kind of a have and have not type reality. Whereas if you have, then you can get more, and if you don't have, then we're gonna take more, and we're gonna disrespect you more. That is what I see going on in the city of Detroit, and it's headed towards dangerous level. And I'll talk about that a little later. But the consent agreement was not good for the city. Was forced into it. And it's interesting because the people who voted for it have refused to agree with implementing it all along the way. They voted for a consent agreement that said that the Department of Health would be transferred. They fought that, but you voted for it. They voted for a consent agreement that had Belle Isle in it, and so far they fought that, but based upon everything that I see, ultimately they'll vote to hand over Belle Isle as well. They voted for a consent agreement that transferred and transitioned workforce development, but then they fought it. Here's an administration and a council that voted to get rid of their human services department. Human services provides services to the masses of the people. It provides services to those who don't have jobs. It provides services to those who are underemployed. It provides food, clothes, and shelter. And you can't operate that? You say, well, we got problems with it. Well, solve the problems. You're a manager. You're supposed to be a manager. You were elected to manage city government. And you said what is needed for city government is that we have corporate involvement in city government, that we run city like a business. Well, we know that the business of corporate America has fallen. GM had to be bailed out. Well, if we're going to use that same model, then bail out Detroit, bail out Cleveland, bail out New Jersey, bail out San Bernardino, bail out all of these cities, DC, Jefferson County, all of these cities that are now having problems trying to pay the bills. You bailing out Spain, I mean the international economic picture where you have Spain in trouble, other countries in the world in trouble, and they have to be bailed out. But here you have the city of Detroit, where the plants that the mayor, that the president came to speak. He didn't come to Detroit. He came around Detroit. Detroit turned out in record numbers, not Redford, but he went to Detroit Diesel in Redford, and he spoke to right to work, but he didn't speak to right to exist, like for the city of Detroit. And so you have a president, and we're all excited because, you know, he's our complexion, and I support him, and I supported him, but I don't support everything. And what I don't support is the lack of a agenda for the cities. There's no urban agenda. How do you bail out plants and do not bail out the cities that are suffering, that the plants are in their boundaries? Something is wrong is that. How do you make a commitment to Israel? Israel will exist. And as a result of Israel existing, we're going to make sure that Israel continue to get the $30 billion. And if anybody make a move on Israel, America got your back. Well, who got Detroit's back? You say to President Assad, if you drop weapons on your people, then you're going to have to deal with us. You said to Mubarak that we're going to come in and deal with you. You said to Gaddafi, we're going to come in and deal with you. But I ain't heard nobody sending no drones into Mexico and dealing with the cartel that's pushing drugs in the city. Majority of the crimes that are committed in the city of Detroit and many cities around this country is drug related. It's because of the drugs. But yet America is not sending nobody in to attack the cartel, to attack those warlords, the drug lords. They'll go deal with a backwards warlord in Somalia, but they won't deal with the drug lords that are pushing drugs that are causing Miss Smith and Miss Johnson to be shut up in their homes because some fool is trying to break in so he can get some more drugs. You see, so this country is backwards. Their policies are backwards, and consequently, all politics are local, so is ours, and so is our leadership. The major problem in the city of Detroit is the lack of leadership, lack of management skills and lack of vision. There's no vision. How do you say, Mr. Mayor, and that's why I left the room, I'm not going to sit at the table with a man who is selling away the city by day and by night. I'm not going to sit at the table with a man who has no understanding and no commitment really to this city. How do you say that the state has a better plan for Belle Isle when we have brought to you a multi-million-dollar project that will help save Belle Isle, employ people on Belle Isle, no fee on the bridge, and you say you think that the state plan is the best plan, and the only thing that the state is doing is taking $6 million, if that much, off your books. They give you nothing else. They give you nothing else, and you give them one of the largest jewel in the state and one of the 10th largest jewels around the country, probably second to Central Park. You give that away. For what? Because we financially strapped? I brought you 2 projects. One for a thrill zone, another one for a water park complete with a small hotel on the back end of the island. You know, it's ridiculous. Folks laugh at us, and they should laugh at us because we're laughable, because we're playing house. We're playing government. We did not march, demonstrate, die, get beaten, get water hosed, get dogs put on us, just so that we can sit at the table and just be happy to be here. That was not, some people may have died for that, but that was not what this was about. What that struggle was about is that we have the right to self-determination. We have the right to power. We have the right to create for ourselves what other folks have created for themselves. Not to beg, not to borrow, not to steal, but to create for ourselves. And we're not doing that. We're not leaving a legacy for our children. Now other folks are. Hans getting ready to. He and his daughter gonna be celebrating tonight, baby. I got this land for you, baby. Daddy was able to do it. Them Negroes did it for us. Yeah, they did it for us. They gave us this land. We're gonna keep the grass cut. We're gonna build some trees, and then we'll cut them damn trees down. When we white folks get back in control of the city, we can build some houses here. We can build some houses here. We can build some structures here. And you and your babies will have a future and a legacy. And Leroy and Shanae and Ray Ray better not come up in here. We'll arrest them or shoot them where they stand. That's where we headed in this city. The fire next time, and there will be a fire, because you cannot dispossess people and expect them to just continue to turn on themselves. Right now, we're devouring ourselves. We're breaking in on senior citizens. You know, your mother is in harm's way. You know, other folks, mothers and grandmothers are in harm's way because you have males who are not men, who think that their manhood is tied into their possessions, and since they don't possess anything, they have no manhood. They have no manhood. And so now we don't care about Miss Smith. We don't care about somebody that's sitting in a house that have worked all their lives, that have given all of their time, their mind, their strength, their blood, and whatever little wealth they had. They've given everything just to have a little piece of land, and then you have a mayor and a council who say, well, you may not have lights, you can stay there, but your garbage won't be picked up. You can stay there, but your roads won't be fixed. We appreciate you continuing to pay your taxes, but you won't get no services from them. And so we're in a very bad place. So you have situations where you have a Midtown, you have an Indian Village, you have all of these specialty communities, and folks are moving back, and that's good. You repopulate the city. You don't depopulate the city. You don't shrink a city. How do you shrink a city? 130 acres. How do you shrink a city? You don't shrink a city. You repopulate it. You offer incentives. You give away some land, which they just did. But I'm talking about land for people to live on. When this country was built after it was stolen, they had a land rush, along with a gold rush later on, but they gave away land. They gave the railroads land, they gave the people land. If you can get to somewhere and put your stake in the ground, you could have that land. That was their way of building the country because it was barren. There was nothing there. And so they needed people to come. And one of the ways of getting people to come is to give them the land, give them the deed. Later on down the line, you'll charge a tax or something like that. We don't have that kind of vision. You don't have a vision to talk about building secure neighborhoods, which could be gated neighborhoods. All this land that they just gave away. You could take that land, because there are neighborhoods there, there are communities there, there are churches there. There are people who are still living there. Yes, there are streets, because I go by there every day. There are streets where there's nobody. There's nobody there, true enough. But you could block that area off, build a Victoria Park, build a Gray Haven, and make it secure. And you can do that all over the city of Detroit, whereby you have secure neighborhoods. For the lack of a better term, they're actually gated neighborhoods, but people will feel secure, because they can go home. There's a guard there at the gate. Nobody that don't live there, they have to go through the gate. If they don't live there, they can't be there. You have zero crime in the area where I live. There's zero crime. There's zero crime. Because it is a secure neighborhood. Well, we can duplicate that process for the time being. Later on, you can take the gates down. Once you get people back to where they got some sense and some humanity, because we're crazy. We're absolutely out of our minds. And so as a result of that, we're doing all kind of foolish stuff. This is not who we are as a people, but it's who we become. And so I know you started with the question about the consent, and I've taken it all over the place. But because this is not a small thing, as black folks, we have failed our ancestors. We've failed to be the best that we possibly can be and do the best that we possibly can do. And as a result of that, other folks see an opportunity. It's like boxing. When you see a guy and he's weak on this side over here, you're going to keep hitting him on that side. And when he go down to one knee, unless that referee jump in, you're going to pop him again. So we're down to that one knee. We're not out, but we're down on that one knee. And folks are taking advantage of that. But, you can't blame Dan Gilbert. How many pieces of land, pieces of property he's bought now? About 10, 11? And then you have the mayor who said, I hope you buy it all. I mean, it's fine. It's all right for him to buy some, but what are you reserving for others? Where is the Maynard Jackson concept where he made sure that there were some black folks who could buy some land too? Hey man, there's some land over here. Not so that you can get a kickback, but so they would know, look, you may want to buy some of this too. There's some property over here. You may want to buy some of that too, so that you can leave a legacy to your children. Where's my legacy to my son, to my daughter, to my granddaughter? I'm gonna watch everybody else build a legacy around me. I'm gonna be that kind of fool. I don't think so. And we think this is good government because we're bringing $500,000. Well, you just gave away all of that money today. Miller Canfield get $300,000 of that $500,000 you just brought in, and then these other contracts they're gonna wipe up the rest of it, and so it's a wash. It's a wash. People have to do what these folks do. They have to come down here so they can hear for themselves and they can see for themselves. They have to listen to talk radio, not always getting accurate information there, but you get some. Same thing with television. They have to read. They have to stay engaged. We spend, I don't want to give any false numbers out, but we spend an amazing amount of time watching TV, listening to radio, not talk radio. And so much of what we get is useless for our development as a community and as a people. So I commend the folks who come down here, although they're not always complimentary to me or any other council person, but this is their right to come down, not to stand out in the hallway, but to see us deliberate and to hear us deliberate, not to have their name called from another room and they don't know what's been said. I think the Open Meetings Act said they have a right to hear and see their government in action. So I do think we violate the Open Meetings Act. I did send a memo to the president requesting the auditorium. You had 10, 15 people at the zoning board meeting that could have been where we were, and everybody could have sat in the meeting. But because we're fearful of democracy, so-called democracy, and we're so quick to ask that somebody be put out, that we want to try to control the flow of dissent. And here's a country that had a revolution based on dissent because they didn't agree to all of the views. And then they wrote it into the Constitution. If my government does thus and so and it fails to continue to live up to these rules, then I have a right to rise up against that government. These folks don't even have a right to yell out without getting put out the room. And so, and then we call them the peanut gallery. Then we say they're just a small group of troublemakers. Well, when I look around the world, it was 12 people that walked with Fidel Castro to create the Cuban Revolution. And he's been in power ever since. He's watched all of the various presidents who plotted his death. He watched them die, and some of them go out of office. And if we see revolution, we see the people rising up in Syria. We see the people rising up in Egypt. We saw the people rise up in Libya. We don't see people rising up in Cuba. If the people were so oppressed and so exploited in Cuba, they would rise up and they would take Fidel Castro out off of his sick bed. They would assassinate Raul, his brother, who's in charge. You don't see people rising up. Cuba has the best medical program in the world. Their medical school is free. You can go to school free in Cuba, but you have to have a commitment to come back and do something for mankind. Healthcare, but yet this country is trying to starve the people with embargo and all of that because they say they're oppressing their people. Well, then it's up to their people to rise up against that government. A handful of people. This is supposed to be a Christian nation. They follow Yeshua. That was his real name. Yeshua, Jesus, the Christ. These so-called Christians. Well, Jesus only had 12 disciples. 12. And it was those 12 men, a little chauvinistic there, those 12 men and Mary Magdalene who went around the mountainside and did things and changed the world with Christian doctrine. 12. Paul Revere. The British are coming, the British are coming. One man on a horse and a handful of people. The people in the real Tea Party, not this fake Tea Party. Just a handful. So it's always a small group of people that refuse to buy into what the status quo is saying. It's always a small group. What was it? The Amber Alert. One woman who's lost her daughter created a process for being able to protect all of our daughters and sons because they took this. Adam, you know, the guy that does the America Most Wanted, that lost his son. As a result, they created America Most Wanted and been able to take so many criminals. One man. And so a small group of people, it starts with, the masses don't start anything. The masses are just trying to get along, trying to get from point A to point B, trying to get some cornbread, just trying to survive. It's a few that says, hell no, I won't go. It's a few that sits down on the ground or sit down on the table, and we act like we don't have that history. We don't know that. We were pulled out of meetings. We were beaten. We were all of those things in righteous indignation. We got here because women laid down and fought and men were water holes. How is it that we will sit and be intolerant of the voices of people? We don't like it, but we should be able to control it as opposed to being controlled by it and succumbing to it. So I think that people are engaged. We see the people up in Lansing. We see the people that were out opposing the Hands Farm. There were about less than 10 people that supported that project. The mass majority of the 400 or 500 people there opposed it. The mass majority of the people that came here today opposed it. Church leaders, not just average citizens, but church leaders that have hundreds of people in their church opposed it. What did this council do today? They approved it. So the question becomes, even if we thought it was a good deal, at what point do you go with the people? You know, I mean, we're talking about people things here. Cobo Hall wasn't a people thing. Cobo Hall was about convention centers. And no people were dispossessed. No people were hurt. That wasn't about people for Cobo Hall. You see, but when you talk about Belle Isle, when you talk about land projects, you're talking about people. When you talk about consent agreements, you're talking about the city. So I just encourage people to continue to learn, go to the source. Go to the source. Please don't just go with what you see on, unless you see it on our television show, because what you see on our television show is gabble to gabble. But what you see on Channel 4, Channel 2, Channel 7, and any of the rest of them, all of that is edited. And so you get a abbreviated version of what may not have even happened at council. So go to the source. Listen to the broadcast that comes on the internet, that is viewed on Channel 22, and come to the meetings yourself and stay engaged. Read information, talk to people who have information and who was there. In terms of the Miller Canfield contract, I think it's about money. I think it's about power. It's pretty much the same thing that happened with the school board. At the school board, they wanted a particular company to be in control of the bond. And when the board members did not support that, they actually went up to Lansing, took the Durham School Board over in order to give that contract to folks who they wanted to have the contract. And Miller Canfield helped to write PA4. They helped to clarify PA4, Public Act 4, the emergency manager law. And they represented and have represented the state, and was the state obviously wanted them in the House because they're comfortable with them. And the mayor didn't fight that. The mayor supports that. The mayor used Miller Canfield against his own law department to try to get his own chief lawyer, the corporation counsel, appointed by the mayor, but also represent the people to make sure that they had nothing to do with the consent agreement. So Miller Canfield is supposed to be there to advise and to enter into and fight off any legal challenges to this consent agreement now and I guess going forward in the future. Now, I believe that probably most of those council members were told that if they go ahead and approve this thing, then some of the money will be released. And some of the money may be released, but it's very clear that Dylan, said that that they were going to hold the majority of the money because they may have to use it when they take over. And when they take over, council will be null and void. Based on the law that I've read, council's budget, including their salary, will be immediately suspended. And so you will have much what you have now, a paper council that really wouldn't be able to make any decisions at all. And I truly believe that that's where we're headed. I believe that that's what's going to happen. How do you have, and I know you have one more question about where I'm going from here, but let me just say this. How do you have the President of the United States in your town or even close to you? He's so embarrassed about this city, he won't even come to Detroit. He comes to the outskirts of the city of Detroit, even after the election, even after we show up. And he didn't even say, "Thank you, Detroit." I didn't hear him say it. I heard the whole speech. I didn't hear him say, "Thank you, Detroit." I didn't even hear him say, "Thank you, Michigan," because I think the whole Michigan went to us with the president. He didn't even say, "Thank you, Michigan," but he said, "Thank you, Iowa," and some of those other cities. But and I mean, you don't respect the person and the people who don't respect themselves. And so you have the mayor who said, I think today in a statement, "Well, I talked to the president about Detroit, and I believe we're going to get some personnel to help us in our situation." Well, he said that a few years ago. The president is going to send some people here from Washington, if you remember. They're going to send in a cadre of people. Some of them people came and they looked and they shook their head and they got the hell out of here. We probably went back and told the president, "Look, man, these folks don't know what they're doing over there." And so, you don't say, "Well, look, I told the mayor, I asked the president, what's the possibility of looking at a package to help bail out the city of Detroit?" These are some of the things that we need, much like what New York needed when New York was bailed out, to billions of dollars, $7.5 billion that the city of New York. But they love New York. And they respected New York. New York is an international city, and they wasn't going to let New York go bankrupt or fail. They could care the hell about Detroit. So now, the last question. Which way forward for me? This is my last year. If I make it that far, look like we're going to be out of office before then. But I am returning to the source. I come out of the movement. And I was never meant to be a politician in the first place. I've tried to make the best out of it to the best of my ability. It has confirmed all of my suspicions. I believe that politics was corrupt, and it is. I believe that politics was compromising, and it is. And I believe that politics was confusing, and it is. So the 3 C's have been confirmed. And when I started, I ran a community center on Dexter and Tyler. It hurts my heart to drive through that area now because, things at the center and other stuff is just bombed out. It looked like somebody dropped the bomb on Dexter. And so the young people out there, young folks who we used to take camping and stuff, they're grown now, but they got children. And there's no direction. There's no vision, there's no commitment, there's no dedication. Our children don't have a sense of purpose where they're going for the future. And I'm not part of giving it to them sitting here. And so I see myself moving on, doing some other things, not just going back to doing what I did. I'm older now. I was a young guy then. And so some of those things I just don't have in me to do, but there are other things that I know that can be done. around the country and around the world, and I intend to play a role. I believe that it is about power. Our people need power. I wear this button religiously because I think it is about empowering the vision. First, you have to have a vision. But just having a vision doesn't mean anything. You have to empower that vision. And you empower that vision by empowering yourself. So I want to talk to people about empowering themselves, empowering the vision of health, empowering the vision of wealth, empowering the vision of power. And again, when I talk about power, I'm talking about the ability to create, the ability to define, the ability to defend and to develop and create reality for ourselves and leave a legacy for our children. As the Native Americans say, 7 generations down the line, we should be able to say what we're going to leave for our children. So whatever time I have left on this earth, I want to be meaningful. I don't want to be sitting here shaking my head. I don't want to be sitting here discouraged and frustrated year after year. I want to be actively involved in helping improve the quality of life of all people, but certainly and most definitely my own people. To thy own self be true, and God bless the child who has his own. So that is where I'm headed, to uplift our people, to inspire our people, to educate our people, to energize our people, to help us stop the foolishness that we're doing now. Because this is not who we are, and we were meant to be. We're sagging, dragging, and lagging because we don't have a sense of pride. And I define pride as taking personal responsibility in determining excellence. We have to do that. I'm not waiting. I don't think white folks owe me anything. I'm not looking for anything from an oppressor, from an exploiter. I'm looking for us because I know our genius, I know who we are, and I know we have the ability to create our own salvation. And I want to be a part of helping to uplift us to do that in the coming years and decades, even if God bless me to be around for decades to come. Not too old, because we don't do old folks right in this country, but I'm not ready to lay down, and I'm not ready to lay my guns down, my sword down, my shield down. I believe that I still have fight in me, but I will choose the fights, and I will choose the battleground that I fight on, but it will be about uplifting my people and empowering a new vision. Now, it's all right to work with other folks in coalitions, but you got to bring something to the table. If they accept you at the table and you don't have anything, then I'm suspicious of them. You got to bring something to the table. And Malcolm said that just because I sit at the table doesn't make me a diner. If everybody's eating and my plate is empty, then I'm not a diner. And if I'm not a diner, you're going to have some problems with me, because the food is smelling good, looks like it's tasting good, but it's not on my plate. So I'm about to either put my hand in your food, I'm about to turn this table upside down. Because if I can't eat, nobody's going to eat here. So we have to come to the table as equals as we possibly can. And when we work with other folks, we have to, accept my expertise, my commitment. Don't treat me like a child. Don't, like you're going to raise me and patronize me. No. I want some of the same thing that you want for your people, for your children. Like this guy, come to ask me, sitting right here in this office, about Camp Brighton. You want a camp that you can have for little Chaldean children, and beautiful camp that this body, soul, and folks was pocketing money for. But yet my children, you tell me in the back room that you'll cut some city lots for my children to play. And no, I want the same. I want my children to swim in that pool too. I want my children to go out on that boat. I want my children to be able to sit where your children sit. I don't want them just to have a job. I want them to own the plant that creates the jobs. I want self-determination. And so that when we talk about coalition, it's about coming for some things that are meaningful as well. And the last part. Politics is politics. And like I said, it's not all what you see. There were so many things that have happened. The mayor was sitting there waiting to come downstairs. I mean, politics is theatrics. And that's why I left. It's all theatrics. You know, these folks knew how they was going to vote. He was going to come down and congratulate folks. The next minute he's on to Dylan. I'm talking to Dylan. We got it done, man. They went for it. You know, so turn loose the 30,000. He said, I'm going to give you the 30,000, but the 50, I'm going to keep because we taking this shit over. You know, we're going to take it over. And so it's theatrics. I do believe to whatever degree that if we're going to play politics, then let's play it the right way. Let us select the candidates that we're going to elect. Don't just let somebody select themselves and present themselves to us and say, vote for me, I'm going to set you free. We have to create the candidate. Because if we don't create the candidate, they'll betray us every time. If they didn't come through us, then they won't belong to us. And they'll sell us out each and every time. So if we're going to play this game, you know, let's play it the right way. And let us understand the rules of politics, the rules of engagement. Politics, Mao Zedong and Sun Tzu said that politics is war without bloodshed, and war is politics with bloodshed. So if we're going to get real about this thing, let's really understand what it's about, because it's never about what you see. It's always about what's behind it and what control it. I do believe, however, that should not be our primary emphasis going forward. Politics should not be our primary emphasis. Economics should be our primary emphasis going forward. And if we control economics, and if we have economics, as Brother J.D. Hill said, we can buy us a few politicians, because that's what other folks do. They just buy them a few. You know, they're a dime a dozen. And some of them come free. They don't even ask to be bought. They won't even take price. They just, you know, they for free. They sell out for free. And so, but economics is controlling. It was the Chamber of Commerce. My understanding, it was the Chamber of Commerce that said to the governor and said to those state legislatures in the lame duck that we have the votes and we have the money, and if you all don't put rights to work on the table, we will come after you and we will defeat you in the next election. Politics is about money and it's about economics, and so we need to control economics so we can feed our people, so we can clothe our people, so we can house our people, so we can take care of those who cannot take care of ourselves. Let us build an economic base, and we have the apparatus there. The black community have almost $1 trillion going through its hand, and over 500 to 600 billion of that we give back to somebody else. If we start roadblocking that money and controlling that money and decide how we're going to direct that money, then we will have power, and we can say to you, or anyone else, I will bankroll your candidacy as long as you support what the people need.